Ciao everyone and welcome to the analysis of the song that ranked 5th in the Sanremo Music Festival 2026. I am talking about Male Necessario by Fedez and Marco Masini. Now, let's start with the title as usual. Clean translation, necessary, evil, male, evil, necessary, necessario. How did they present the song, however? Once they were picked and their participation was confirmed in the Sanremo Music Festival 2026. Fedez started because, of course, being a duo, they had to present together, and said, Male Necessario is a little mantra to remember and not forget that the storms you face throughout your life can also be opportunities. And then Masini continued, we met in this aspect. We like to tell stories. We also wanted to tell our story. Moving on from pain, in my opinion, is important to recognizing happiness. And then to another interviewer, specifically in an interview released to TV Sorrisi e Canzoni, a magazine, an Italian magazine covering, guess what? Things concerning TV, he said, the message of Male Necessario is that we must have courage and that we cannot lose hope, especially in periods of great endurance. So this is how they presented it. This was supposed to be the concept. What did Lorenzo Coveri thought about this song? Lorenzo Coveri, as we said several times, is a scholar from the Accademia della Crusca, so the institute responsible for regulating how the Italian language works. He rated this song 6.70 because grades sometimes are a little bit like that. What in Italian we call 6 al 7, which is written 6/7. So it's almost 7, but not really. It is somewhere between 6.5 and 7. That's why I'm saying 6.70. And he said, the odd couple, formed by Fedez, 36 years old, 3 festival participations, and Marco Masini, 61 years old, 9 festival participations, 1 won. If we don't count Sanremo Giovani, by the way, because Marco Masini won once as a big participant, and then he also won once participating in Sanremo Giovani. A lot of time ago, because given his age. And tested last year on cover night, because if you remember, last year we talked about the fact Fedez participated but on his own, and then he sang a cover of one of the most famous songs by Marco Masini, Beautiful Bitch. This couple returns to the Ariston with a lyric signed by a large team. Please remember this detail. Was between songwriting, so the style of Marco Masini, and urban rap, the style of Fedez, very ambitious. We talk about fragility, vulnerability, redemption, in an assembly that is difficult to decipher, with a language that varies from high register to low register, so more aulic register, more poetic one, to more common language, and an accumulation of images that are not always happy. If I may, rarely happy, because the tones of this song, I would say, are quite dark. In short, according to Fedez and Masini, evil, appearing 374 times in the Sanremo vocabulary, because as we said several times, Sanremo Music Festival has a database containing all the songs, all the lyrics of the songs and their titles, is, so the evil is necessary. Only one occurrence. So, evil, actually, male in Italian, very common, necessario, necessary, not that much. Which makes sense, because male is not only evil, but it's also bad. Okay. It has several meanings. It is present in several idioms, expressions, and collocations. And then Lorenzo Coveri ends with, but was it necessary? Which is also a question that I leave you with, and we're going to find out if this evil was really necessary by reading, by understanding the lyrics of the song. So, as you can see, if you see this color, you are going to see the parts sung by Fedez. If you see this color, you're going to see the parts sung by Masini. And if you see this color, you're going to see the parts sung by both of them together. We start with a verse, as you can see, Fedez starts. So che in fondo non c'è tempo. Quante cose che cambiano, ti ho deluso, ma dimmi qualcosa che non so. I know that deep down there is no time. How many things change, I've disappointed you, but tell me something I don't know. I miei problemi ormai saranno la parte di te, quella più vulnerabile e spietata, lo sai. My problems now will be the part of you, the most vulnerable and ruthless one, you know. Where vulnerabile e spietata, vulnerable and ruthless, might be seen as an oxymoron, so an opposition between two words having pretty much opposite meaning. Of course, here is the opposition between vulnerable, so something that needs to be protected, and ruthless, something more strong, okay, that attacks, ok. Non ho più spazio per dipingermi d'inchiostro. Lo ammetto, però per le cicatrici trovo sempre un posto. I no longer have space to paint myself with ink. I admit, though, I always find a place for, for other scars. Now, for this part, the reference about not having space for ink anymore, Coveri asked, might this be a reference to writing? I don't think so. I think is simply a way, okay, to create this opposition between I don't have space to make more tattoos, to get more tattoos, but I always find a place for scars. Of course, here we are not really thinking about physical scars, but emotional ones, so trauma. And in this case, I don't think there is, like, I think that this hinting at the fact that Fedez is covered in ink is just to create this opposition between what's on the skin, so the tattoos or the scars, because ideally they are both things we marking our skin, okay, even if in this case the scars are metaphorical ones, okay. And then we have the chorus and we have Masini singing. Da questa notte resto solo insieme a me, toccando il fondo in una stanza di un hotel. Un giorno poi comprenderò cos'è l'amore, ma nel frattempo giuro mi puoi odiare. From this night I remain alone with myself, hitting bottom in a hotel room. One day then I will understand what love is, but in the meantime I swear you can hate me. Now, here we have toccare il fondo. Toccare il fondo is an idiomatic expression in Italian which is very similar in English. In fact, in English it is hitting rock bottom or hitting the bottom as you prefer. In Italian, however, the collocation of the idiom is toccare il fondo, so not to hit but to touch, ok? And then we have un giorno poi comprenderò cos'è l'amore. Now, this syntactical structure can use both the subjunctive and the indicative mood. In this case, we can find the indicative. Why is this important? Because when we use the subjunctive, we express uncertainty, while when we use the indicative, we express certainty. So, put like that, it means that one day it is certain that I will understand what love is. So it is going to happen for certain. It's not a maybe. But it didn't happen yet, just yet. E come un latitante a un passo dall'arresto, ora non ho più bisogno di scappare io dal silenzio che è un rumore, da tutto questo male necessario. And like a fugitive one step away from arrest, now I don't need to run away anymore. From the silence that is noise, from all this necessary evil. Now, here we have a choice of metaphors. We can put it like that. And however, I do agree with Lorenzo Coveri where this metaphor didn't come out very well, because saying that a fugitive doesn't need to run away anymore when they are about to be arrested is not really true. I can assure you, as someone who studied sociology of criminal law, that when someone is about to be arrested, they have very much the need, generally speaking, to run away. It's just that they can't. So it would have been come un latitante a un passo dall'arresto, non posso più scappare, ok? This thing about and it would have fit the meaning of the song, by the way. It is what it is. Choices. And then we have an oxymoron, because we have silence, which is the absence of noise, which is noisy. Okay. And what is this noisy silence? It is this necessary evil. Then we have the second verse, and we have Fedez back again. Dovrei separare l'ego dall'io, ma non siamo fatti per essere fragili. Ogni padre inizia come fosse un dio, ma poi finisce che diventa un alibi. I should separate the ego from the self, but we are not meant to be fragile. Every father begins as if he were a god, but then it ends up becoming an alibi. Fun fact, alibi, just like random, are Latin words. That's why sometimes when you hear me speaking in English, I kept the same pronunciation, because in my mind it's not Italian, it's Latin. Anyway, we have, first of all, I should separate the ego from the self, and this is a reference to Freudian psychoanalysis, where you have the ego, and the io, the self. In this case, the ego and the self, I think, are supposed to be what the person really is and what the persona is. Because you have the self, so the person behind the persona, and then you have the ego, the persona. Generally, the persona for a public figure, it is a mask that is created to protect yourself. But it is also because not always your persona, your public figure, is 100% matching you. Generally, it is not. It is a very normal human mechanism. If you are a fan of Pirandello's theory, you will pretty much agree with that. But the idea is here could also be I should keep separated my persona and myself, who I really am, because also the persona is shaped by how the audience, the people around you, see the persona. So you may let people shape the persona, but it's better to not let them shape yourself. Ma non siamo fatti per essere fragili, but we are not meant to be fragile. Here might be a criticism to the fact that men, because Fedez and Marco Masini are two men, are not allowed in our society to be fragile. And then we have every father begins as if he were a god, but then it ends up becoming an alibi. As in, very often we look up to our parents, here always. Here basically the meaning is when we are born, when we are little, we look up to our parents, here the father figure, probably because it's very men-centered, given the two artists, the two artists who made this song. So of course it's their point of view. They are specifically talking about their father. And here we have our father is always a figure we look up to, but then growing up, we realize that our parents, in this case our father, is not as good. And what happens? It happens that this bad parenting, the fact that our father is not such a good person, becomes an alibi to become bad people ourselves, basically. So probably here there is a criticism about the fact that you stop yourself from becoming, pass me the term, your better self, because you stay stuck in blaming everything bad happening in your life on your parental figure, which is not 100% perfect. It's not God, okay? We're supposed to be perfect and always right. And then we have probably the best section, in my opinion, of this song. La gente pudica giudica, che brutta gente che frequenta Fedez. Ma ci si dimentica sempre che Giuda se la faceva con gente per bene. Modest people judge. Fedez hangs out with such bad people. And this is a quote, because it's like saying, modest people judge, implied saying that Fedez hangs out with such bad people. But we always forget that Judas got along with good people. Now, let's start with the inner rhyme inside the line. La gente pudica giudica. So, we have the rhyme between pudica and giudica to probably point out the hypocrisy, the paradox of the situation, where you have a group of people thinking they are better than others, but then everything they do is judging others, proving that they are not such good people. So it's to highlight the paradox and the hypocrisy of this behavior. And then we have a biblical, a reference to the Bible, specifically to Judas Iscariot, so the disciple who betrayed Jesus. And here the message is that we always forget that Judas got along, stayed, hanged with good people, so Jesus and disciples. Because here the counterpoint of Fedez is that you criticize me because I hang with bad people, but keep in mind that hanging with good people doesn't make you a good person. Now, true, just because you hang out with good people doesn't make you a good person either, okay? If we don't want to use the good and bad because it's a bit abstract concepts, very simple, psychologically speaking, if you surround yourself with people attached to unhealthy behaviors, chances are you are going to develop them as well, or at least keep staying attached to them if you have the same problem. Just by moving yourself with people more prone to healthy behavior, it doesn't guarantee you that you're going to develop this attachment to healthy behaviors as well. However, there is a very big however. It is true that staying with good people, so people fostering healthy environment, is not enough. But the counterpoint, logically speaking, that I would make here is that, but at least it's better than staying in unhealthy environments. True, staying in a healthy environment doesn't automatically make you healthier, but surely healthier than people staying in unhealthy environment. So I get it. The point here was to point out the hypocrisy of certain people, but falls a bit flat simply for the fact that I might be hanging with bad people, but you are no better. It's not really the same. Would have worked better the comparison between someone who stays with, surround themselves, stays in healthy environment and thrives in this environment, opposed to people who do the same but without fostering or trying to put in place these healthy behaviors. So yeah, for me this part, it's very well built, literally speaking, but logically speaking, could be better, could have been better. Then we have a bridge. E so che farà male e vorrai cominciare a bere e poi fumare, forse per distrazione. And I know it will hurt, and you'll want to get started to drink and then smoke, maybe out of distraction. Of course, here is a reference to all those unhealthy coping mechanisms humans develop because they don't know how to deal with unpleasant situations and feelings. And maybe they are telling this to themselves, to their inner child, to their old selves and whatnot. But since we have the future, it could be also towards future generations or Fedez's children. I'm not mentioning Masini's children because he didn't have children. Then we have a spoken part: se è vero che siamo solo di passaggio, il vero obiettivo non può essere la meta, ma imparare a godersi il viaggio. If it's true that we are just passing through, the real objective cannot be the destination, but learn to enjoy the journey. This is a metaphor to say, if it's true that after death there's nothing, the real meaning of life it cannot be to reach the afterlife. It has to be being capable of enjoying life while we are alive. Which is a very good point. But I lost the count of the people who use this metaphor. And in my opinion, it doesn't attach very well to the rest. It seems like a little bit threw in, a bit of a banality threw in just to fill the space. I don't know. I'm not convinced. And then we have another bridge leading to the chorus: quando crescerai e non mi chiederai nemmeno più il permesso, si impara, vedrai che i mostri non stanno soltanto sotto al letto. When you will grow up and you won't even ask me for permission anymore, you'll see that monsters aren't just under the bed. And that's why I'm saying it could be that they are also referring to either generally newer generations, so ideal children, or directly to Fedez children. And here the idea is that when you will be old enough to not ask me the permission anymore, so either during teenage or during adulthood, you will find out that it's not only like the monsters you were thinking about in your childhood, because the monster under the bed is an image commonly related to childhood. You will see that monsters, so I don't know if here they mean like bad thing or generally bad people, because most in Italian is more bad people are not only under your bed. They are all over the world basically. Then we have the same chorus repeated, and then we have another bridge. Ci ho messo una vita per sentirmi vivo, seguendo la linea sottile di un filo. Succederà ciò che deve succedere, anche nel buio si impara a vedere. In fondo a tutto il male necessario. It took me forever to feel alive, following the thin line of a thread. What has happened will happen, even the dark you learn to see at the bottom of all the necessary evil. Again, okay. A cool concept, not specifically original, however. Succederà quel che deve succedere. What has to happen will happen. So a bit of determinism. So like it is what it is. Maybe the idea was to be a bit stoic. So whatever happens, we're going to deal with it. Could be. And then even in the dark, you can learn how to see. Again, it's not the first time I see this metaphor. For me, this part, but also other parts in the song, they seem like a sequence of cool catchphrases put all together. I struggle to feel the line harmonizing everything together. And then we have a chorus, but this time a variant. The first part is the same: da questa notte resto solo insieme a me, toccando il fondo in una stanza di un hotel. Un giorno poi comprenderò cos'è l'amore, ma nel frattempo giuro mi puoi odiare. From this night I remain alone with myself, hitting bottom in a hotel room. One day then I will understand what love is, but in the meantime I swear you can hate me. Then this little beginning part of the second section is the same. E come un latitante a un passo dall'arresto, ora non ho più bisogno di scappare io. And like a fugitive one step away from arrest, now I don't need to run away anymore. E ringrazierò il passato e chi mi ha condannato e tutto questo male necessario. And I will thank the past and those who condemned it and all this necessary evil. So here the idea is what doesn't kill me makes me stronger sort of situation. And this is the part that changes. And then we finish with an outro. So che in fondo non c'è tempo, quante cose che cambiano. Ti ho deluso, ma dimmi qualcosa che non so. I know that deep down there is no time, how many things change. I disappointed you, but tell me something I don't know. Sounds familiar? Well, because the outro, closing the song, is exactly how the song starts. So a little bit of a circle that closes itself. That said, what else can we say? First of all, this song won the Sergio Bardotti Award for the best lyrics. I do agree with Lorenzo Coveri that this wasn't the best lyric, to be fair. It is a little bit the situation we had last year when the best lyric was won by Simone Cristicchi. In both cases, probably the award was given because of preferences from the radio and the specialized press, because it's clear that both last year and this year didn't won, like the best lyrics award wasn't won by the best lyrics. In fact, both last year and this year, the lyrics which won this award were and are quite average in the end. There is nothing like, oh my god, so innovative. It's not bad lyrics, it's just not the best either, however. Also, another problem that some people are denying, I actually agree with it, is that in the performance there was a severe lack of harmony. Like, the issue is probably this is what feels off the most with this song, which is the lack of harmony. The lyrics are not very well tied together. The performance was very well put together because you had Fedez rapping, you had Marco Masini singing, but the two parts weren't that much connected between them, weren't mixing as much. And also there was quite of a problem when they were singing the parts together because Fedez was completely overshadowed. You were, at least during the live performances, you were barely able to feel Fedez in it. So yeah, that was another problem. But then, for me, the biggest problem, probably the biggest problem, is this lack of harmony. But the other big problem, at least for me, and I want to be clear about it, when I say that I like or I dislike something, I'm not meaning that this is the absolute truth. Okay, this is my point of view. If I don't like something or if I like something, tells something about it. Of course, when I do the analysis, if there are mistakes, grammatically speaking, syntactically speaking, literal, poem-wise speaking, generally you can tell if something is correct, is working or not. For personal liking, of course, it's personal. So if you like this song, no problem. Just don't try to convince me that this is the best song of the festival, because I'm already telling you we can agree to disagree. Anyway, The other big problem, besides the severe lack of harmony, is a bit the vibe that I felt throughout the whole performance, but also the song in general, which is the sort of narrative where they are the victims, okay? Victims of injustice and how the whole world was against them. It's just not true. Like, how can I explain? So when Fedez says, "Oh, people accuse me to hang out, to surround myself with bad people," actually, this is not one of the main controversies hearing Fedez. This is not the main criticism moved against Fedez. The main criticism people say bring up is actually that Fedez is an opportunist. It's just that Fedez is a very, or at least his persona, mentioning the persona quoted in the lyrics, his persona is very fake and opportunist. He had several issues with other singers who pointed out how hard it is to work with Fedez because he uses you, and when you are of no use anymore, he treats you like shit and he throws you away like a used condom sort of situation. So again, the problem here, like where he's trying to present himself as the victim, staying with the bad people and whatnot. No, actually, people are simply saying there is a pattern, and to be fair, it is a pattern that is quite objective here, where Fedez has this collection of relationships ended very badly, and this talent in choosing people with whom the relationships always end very bad, because it happened to everybody, mainly when we are young, to have difficult relationships not ending well. But Fedez is 36 years old and he has this streak going, okay? And that is a fact that he had and has been having these issues since always. So he's trying to present himself as a victim of something that is just not there. And it's pretty much a criticism of how his behavior is. Because when it happens once or twice, okay, unlucky, happens to everybody. But when the thing is systematic, it's very hard to deny and pretend that you are always the victim and you're just unlucky. Mainly for someone like Fedez, who in theory goes to therapy, has the resources to look for help, has all the means to get help, and apparently he doesn't. Same thing with Masini. He is presented like he was accused of something that never happened. It's true that Masini received quite of a harsh treatment. In fact, the perception I had of Masini always been as someone who had much more success outside of Italy than in Italy. Because first of all, Masini is renowned pretty much only by the boomer generation, and even in the boomer generation in Italy there are many people criticizing him. So if you are a foreigner and you look up to Masini, just so you know, probably the idea people have outside of Italy doesn't match the idea people have of Masini in Italy. So in Italy it happened that he made certain songs that created a lot of debate, because in the 90s they were already problematic, and the problem is that he never took a step back. Okay, he always defended his songs and his ideas without really never compromising. Which you could say, oh, but maybe if someone has political ideas or personal history, like you can't really make them change their idea. The issue is that he's speaking about everything that happened, like censorship, but actually it was backlash from the audience. Now, censorship is when the power makes you a victim because takes you away the possibility to express yourself. This is not what happened with Masini. Masini, in fact, is at Sanremo. He kept singing. He's quite famous. So there wasn't any censorship. He was simply criticized by the audience because his songs were and still are quite problematic. But again, he brought, specifically I'm talking about Bella Stronza, Beautiful Beach, because it is a very problematic song. And he brought it at Sanremo Music Festival last year. There is no censorship, okay? What happened is that he got a backlash, so he suffered the consequence for his idea and his actions, because many people told him, bro, you are normalizing toxic relationships. And his answer, and this answer still is, oh, but because if you mix love and hate, what you get is passion. It's like, there is no love if there is hate. So what he's being accused of and was being accused of is of normalizing abusive relationship, because Bella Stronza, for example, tells the story of his relationship with a woman, and this relationship is very abusive. But the issue is that he's blaming everything on the woman, like any fault of the relationship is blamed on the partner. He is completely innocent. He's the victim, totally 100% poor soul, poor angel. And he expressed several times throughout the years, how can I say, some opinions that are not the best. So again, the fact that, there can be hate with love when it's objectively something not healthy to promote, or the fact that people told him there is violence, normalized violence in your songs, and he was like, oh, but don't worry about it. It's not physical violence, it's metaphorical violence, and it's like, I guess. The only thing, but even in that case, it was quite ridiculous, is that when he started to become famous and people started to point out that his songs were problematic because they weren't fostering they weren't fostering healthy messages, okay? Someone created this urban legend about the fact that Masini's songs were so bad that they were causing depression into young people who were listening to his song, which again is, do I have to take this seriously? Are you really a victim because this happened? So like they are both trying to sell this story of how they are victims of this fate which is unjust and unfair, but they came out stronger than ever because they were right. They are actually the good people. And I'm sorry to say, but this song is the very clear demonstration that they are not on the right side of history. Like, just to put it in perspective, Fedez and Masini right now are supporting the people in the Italian government. Okay? They are not from the minority. They are not from the oppressed. They are very much with the power, despite how they are selling themselves. And in fact, this doesn't play in favor of Fedez's case, for example, because while he was with Chiara Ferragni, he was accused of doing a lot of queer baiting, pink washing, rainbow washing. So to appropriate causes just to gain audience, followers, and things like that. This accusation aged like fine wine, because guess what? When the whole issue with Chiara Ferragni blew up, he, without a second thought, changed completely the side and went from sort of left to basically far right. Now he's best friend with Giorgia Meloni and things like that. So Yeah, again, he's selling himself as a victim, but at the same time, he's proving all his haters right, basically. Not haters, but at least the people who critiqued him for being fake, for his persona being very fake, got proven right. Masini, the same thing. He was accused of fostering unhealthy behaviors, and he keeps doing that, and every time there is something happen, it's always someone else's fault. He went in several interviews saying that if he wasn't as famous as others, it's just because singers staying with the left Italian parties have it easy. So these are the sort of people where whatever they do everything correct, and if something bad happen, it's never their fault, it's always someone else's fault. In fact, another thing that I don't like about this song is that through all the song, you think, okay, but what is this necessary evil? Because let's be honest, the idea behind is not wrong. As human beings, we have to go through unpleasant moments in our life. For example, very clear example, when you are a child and for the first time you lose someone you love. It can be, in the easiest case, even if easiest is a big word, a beloved pet. Of course, everybody, or at least many people, go through the pain of losing our grandparents. Even worse, our parents, okay? Because if people are older than us, statistically speaking, we are going to lose them. And for example, losing someone we love, receiving no as an answer, so not obtaining everything we want in life. There are these experiences which are at first unpleasant, but they are part of life. And these can be called the more than necessary, I would say unavoidable evils, but to stay in the theme of the song, we can call them necessary evils. But the issue is that these necessary evils are not the ones in the songs. The necessary evils are the fact that you are going to get hurt and traumatized, the fact that your parents are going to start as the best people and then they are going to become an alibi for everything that goes wrong in your life. Staying with bad companies, in unhealthy behavior, in unhealthy environments, the fact that you have to deal with monsters, okay, the fact that you will need a whole life to learn how to love. All of these things are really not a necessary evil. All of these things are things that can be solved by going to therapy and avoid trauma dumping on the next generation. Like, all of these things are part of the generational trauma that keeps going on generation from generation because nobody does anything. Like, that's the problem. All this evil is not necessary. All this evil is looked for. If you keep perpetuating all of these traumatic experiences, it's your choice. It's completely it's completely avoidable. The fact that you are treating it like inevitable, it's not a good sign. So again, the idea behind the song, it's good. Some parts of the song are interesting for how they are built, but the execution of the concept they were supposed to bring is completely not sufficient. Sort of situation, good idea, very bad execution. So at least this is how I see it, and that's why I agree with Coveri that this wasn't the best lyrics of the festival, and I keep saying that this song didn't deserve the 5th place. Probably at best to be in top 10, but surely not to be on the podium. This is one of the classic cases where the song managed to rank so high because the artists are already famous, so of course they are sustained by their fans, the fan base, the specialized press, the radios, and whatnot. So again, also come up with a victimist the story of them being victims when they are clearly not victims anymore because they are from the power side right now. I don't know, feels like complaining about a problem that it's simply not there. Sort of like you are talking about getting over, but you're clearly not getting over with it. Because we have, for example, songs like the one of Arisa, where these improvement, these going through bad events, not defined necessary, but they just happen because life is like that. So I went through these bad things in my life. I went to therapy and now it's okay. I'm finding my peace. Here, I don't know. It feels like we skipped the therapy part and we are stuck in how bad my life is, despite being famous 36 years old and 61 years old. So I don't know. It's one of the situations where you really think, I don't know, man, grow up. Like get over it sort of situation, because it's kind of presented as we got over it, but they clearly didn't. So that's why good idea, not very well executed, however. Anyway, that said, let me know in the comments what you think about Male Necessario by Fedez and Marco Masini. I hope you enjoyed. Grazie everyone for watching and arrivederci.